Hello, and welcome to my presentation on communicating your leadership vision. I want to start with the story of when I bought my first house. At the time, it seemed like an impossible and daunting task, especially at my age and in this economy. No one thought I could do it, but I wanted to prove them wrong. I did my research on what I wanted in the house, how big I wanted it, where I wanted it, and so on and so forth. I stuck with it for many years, saving up money, watching interest rates and housing prices. I also started making connections with people in the housing industry and in construction. And in my search, I found a bank who was willing to grant me a loan and where I pre-qualified for the price of a house. And eventually, it finally happened. I found a house that had everything I wanted, it was where I wanted, and it was in my price range. And at the age of 23, I did what everybody, myself included, thought was impossible. I purchased my first home. My vision statement as the new customer service manager is to find new ways to meet and exceed the needs of our customers and the company by always seeking to grow and improve ourselves, both personally and professionally, and being authentic and transparent by communicating with truthfulness and compassion. While working to fulfill and follow this vision statement, I hope to meet all of the company's values, specifically the values of growth and trust. Self-awareness is the ability a person has to recognize and understand their own thoughts, impulses, and emotions and how those affect their behavior. Emotional awareness is the ability a person has to recognize and understand the emotions of themselves and the people around them. Self-awareness and emotional awareness are important because it enables people to have a better understanding of themselves and it increases their ability to understand behaviors. Having a better understanding of oneself increases self-management and enables a person to adapt to situations as necessary. Understanding the behaviors, both personal behaviors and of others, helps a person to have a better understanding of other people, increases empathy, and enables stronger relationships. One example of how the team and I will use emotional awareness to demonstrate self-awareness on a day-to-day basis is by having random check-ins with ourselves and others. Having these self-check-ins gives us time throughout our day to stop for a moment and reflect on how we are feeling and what our reactions are to different situations that we are encountering. Making a mental note or writing down these emotions and reactions can help to understand why they are happening, what is causing them, and eventually be able to correct them if we do not like something that is occurring. It can also help to quickly check in with the people around you and who you interact with to be aware of their emotions and how they are feeling. Self-management, also known as self-regulation, is the ability a person has to control their own thoughts and emotions and the effect those have on their outwards behavior. Emotional self-control is a person's ability to control disrupting and intrusive emotions in any given situation. Self-management and emotional self-control are both important because it leads to a person's emotional stability, allows for transparency of one's feelings and emotions, and enables the building of empathetic relationships. Having emotional stability strengthens impulse control and helps people to have a more centered and grounded mindset. It also helps a person to have freedom from their emotions. Transparency encourages honesty and authenticity. Establishing empathetic relationships, especially for leaders, shows others their integrity and trustworthiness. One example of how the team and I will use emotional self-control to demonstrate self-management on a day-to-day basis is by practicing mindfulness and awareness of others. Practicing mindfulness helps a person to stay calm and collected in situations that would otherwise cause emotional unrest. Keeping our emotions calm in disruptive situations allows for a person to think clearly and rationally instead of reacting impulsively based on their current emotional state. What is social awareness? Social awareness is a person's ability to have empathy with other people despite not having the same experiences or coming from the same backgrounds. Empathy is the ability a person has to understand someone else's perspective and emotions. Social awareness and empathy are both important because they increase diversity and inclusion and improve communications with other people. The more people a person interacts with, the more they are exposed to a variety of background, cultures, and experiences. This broadens their perception of the world and increases the likelihood of them being able to accept and understand the other backgrounds, and increases diversity in the person's life and inclusion of those differences. When a person improves communication skills, it allows them to have better observations of the people they interact with, make assessments based on verbal and nonverbal cues, and act in accordance. Both of these increase the success of the person and those around them. One example of how the team and I will use empathy to demonstrate social awareness on a day-to-day basis is by engaging and connecting with others. When someone actively tries engaging with the people around them, especially if it is outside of their normal day-to-day routine, and they show genuine curiosity and interest when doing so, they're able to increase their understanding of the people that they are interacting with and form new connections, which this also results in increasing their communication skills as a whole. Unconscious bias is the subconscious prejudice a person or group has that influences their feelings and actions. It is important to bring attention to these biases so people can work to understand and overcome them. However, this is very difficult to do as the biases are a result of the environment a person is in, and most individuals are unaware they even have them. Challenging these biases will often feel like a threat to the person who holds the bias. Unconscious bias is relevant in a professional setting because it impacts an organizational system structure and policies and influences the company culture. For example, if individuals in a company were made aware of the unconscious bias and are active in overcoming it, it enables change, allows for the input of a wider variety of perspectives and opinions, increases diversity and inclusion, and reduces discrimination in hostile work environments. However, if individuals in a company are unaware of their unconscious biases and left unchallenged, the biases will start to influence the people around them and even the organization itself. Individuals will flock to others who share similar values and opinions, which discourages diversity, prevents change, and can result in decreased productivity. This can also create an unhealthy work environment, especially for individuals who do not share the same perspectives, and it promotes discrimination. Bias is the prejudice a person holds towards something or someone else. One type of cognitive bias is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendencies a person has when they are partial to information that agrees with their own beliefs, even if this is wrong. An example of confirmation bias is if a person believes that dogs are better than cats. Whenever this person would encounter an instance where a cat was misbehaved or did something wrong, like accidentally knocking over a glass, they would use that instance to emphasize their belief that cats are worse than dogs and would not look for any other context or information. Another type of cognitive bias is affinity bias. Affinity bias is when a person favors other people like them who share similar traits and backgrounds and disfavors people who are different from them. An example of affinity bias would be if a manager who is an avid reader and part of the company book club was looking to promote someone from within the company to a higher position, and they chose to promote someone who they went to book club with and passed by candidates who are more qualified and deserving of the position. Ethics are behavioral standards a person holds for themselves that establishes their values. Bias affects ethical decision-making by limiting an individual's perspective and clouding their judgment. Bias draws people to what they are familiar with and making them more receptive to things that support their beliefs. This clouds their judgment and limits the diversity of experiences and knowledge, and in turn, their overall perspective. Having a limited world perspective limits a person's access to information that could be pertinent in their decision-making and can create beliefs and opinions based on false information. When a person's judgment is clouded by bias, they are often fueled by their emotions, positive or negative, and do not stop to think things through. Both of these, having a limited perspective and having clouded judgment, can cause a person to disregard any logic, morale, or ethics and choose what is most favorable to them, resulting in rash decisions being made without thinking things through or evaluating all options. Relationship management is the nurturing and maintenance of a relationship between entities. Ethics affect relationship management by impacting interactions and influencing each other's behaviors. If ethics are followed, they can strengthen relationships by building them based on honesty and mutual respect, ensuring all parties are treated equally. Continuing to manage relationships in this way will show how each party cares and values the other. This encourages the other party to act similarly, creating a healthy and ethical relationship. However, if ethics are not followed, the relationship weakens and can become difficult to manage. Displaying unethical behavior shows the other party that they do not care about the relationship and that it is okay to act unethically and bend the rules. The parties stop caring about the relationship and start to become cautious of each other, causing interactions that can become hostile. For example, a new employee is hired on and is doing great at their job. Their manager is very ethical and checks in with them periodically to make sure they're doing okay, and seems to genuinely want what is best for them. They're following all the rules, being polite and kind to everyone, following basic ethics, making sure their work is turned in on time, so on and so forth. Their outstanding performance so far. Eventually, though, they get a new manager who is not like the first one. This manager is always late to work, they don't do their job properly and lie about it, they hide mistakes that they make or blame it on other people, and they don't check in with their employees or even seem to care about them at all. This goes on for a few months and they never get reported. This employee sees that this is okay and starts to slack off on their own work. They stop caring about their performance, start coming in late, leaving early, and they even start lying about things to their managers. The unethical and ethical behaviors of each of the managers impacted how the employee behaved and performed and how they interacted with the managers themselves. A culture of care is an environment in which all individuals feel valued. It is created when the organization and its leaders take the time and energy to care for its employees and clients. Relationship management creates a culture of care by providing a welcoming environment. This applies to employees, clients, stakeholders, and leadership. By investing time and energy into the relationship and demonstrating care and support, a welcoming environment is created. This creates an environment that encourages individuals to be vulnerable and authentic without fear of retaliation or judgment. An example of this would be when a manager takes time out of their one-on-one meetings with their employees to check in on them and see how they're doing, separate from their work. This could be asking about hobbies or family or just their overall mental health. Taking the time from their meetings to check in on their employees shows them that the manager is invested and values them as a person, not just as a worker. And if the employee is having a hard time, the manager is able to show compassion and understanding of the situation and provide needed support. How will we use emotional intelligence to be more effective as a team? My team and I will use self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management to improve our overall emotional intelligence and become more effective as a team. We will use self-awareness to check in with ourselves and monitor our emotions and reactions. Using self-management, we will work on controlling our impulses and emotions to improve our rational thinking. We will use social awareness to connect with more people, improve our communications, and to better understand one another. And lastly, we will use relationship management to nurture the connections we form and to create healthy and caring relationships.